Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we are currently in orbit over Atraitus yet again, and we are preparing to bring ourselves down to here. The main question is, do we have the Delta V to pull that off? And we'll find out. For now, I want to warp to about here. And now that we are behind Atraitus, there's no reason to keep our solar panels extended. We'll do that. And this is on. That looks perfect. So let's go ahead and execute this next burn. Let's do this. So we're going to be entering the atmosphere eventually. This burn is going to be a 7.4 minute burn. Understood. So we're going to need to fill this tank, and we're going to need to pull from this tank. There we go. So we're going to be starting this up. And the real question is, what are we going to be at for this? It shouldn't change that much, right? In theory. But I'm not sure we have quite enough fuel to actually pull this off. We're probably going to have to do a little bit of aero braking here. And that's fine. We can definitely do that. I'm mostly interested at this point in just dropping down our apoapsis somewhat, which is going nicely. Okay, so we've got about 40% fuel remaining in our big tank. That's understood. And we are, of course, in atmosphere at this moment. So we've got about 20% fuel remaining in the big tank. I don't think we quite have enough fuel to pull this burn off, but that's okay. We don't need to. This is why I didn't want to do this burn earlier. I'm going to take this down to 1x because we are going to be ditching this remaining, or rather, be ditching this tank very shortly here. So we're going to be staging this interstage, and we'll be exposing our heat shield at that time. Okay, we are officially out of fuel as of now. So let's go ahead and ditch that, and let's orient to velocity retrograde. Perfect. So at this point, we can get rid of this. It's no longer a thing. That looks fine. Cool. So I kind of want to ditch this a bit. So let's just shove it out of the way like that and then orient back to retrograde. Perfect. So let's just get that out of the way, and we're currently at a decent altitude here. If we check our current drag rate, 3.5 newtons and decreasing. I think we're going up at this point. We're right at the periapsis. Okay, so that's understood. And you can see here our drag force is about 30 newtons. So this is not a lot of drag force, right? Not at this altitude, but that's okay. Let's take this up to 10x. We're at the periapsis right now, and we're coming back up. So we can see that this is indeed dropping a little bit, but it's not dropping much. And like I said, this is the exact reason why I aborted the 930 kilometer burn and why I dropped our periapsis down first and then did this. Because I was definitely concerned that we wouldn't have enough delta V to dip into the atmosphere if we circularized first. And that concern was correct. We did not have enough delta V for that. So that's good to know. This is absolutely fine right now. We're out of the atmosphere at this point, so we can extend our solar panels out, get charged up a little bit. There we go. And we can warp around to somewhere like here. So around we go. We're going to continue to point retrograde, of course. And we can continue to warp forward at a pretty decent pace here. Let's go forward at about 25x. In fact, let's go to 100x. It'll automatically drop us down as we approach the atmosphere. So there it drops us down to 25, and there it drops us completely out. So let's stow those solar panels and go up to 10x and take another aero brake pass. Beautiful. So if we keep an eye here on our temperatures, I want to pin this guy open. We can see we are definitely building up some heat here and some drag force. And we can also see in our velocities here, our Mach number is 6.67 and increasing, which is expected that it's increasing as we approach the periapsis. So that looks fine. Our apoapsis dropping down very minorly over the course of this entire passage here. So we're going to have to take a number of aero brake passes, but that's okay. This is the safest way to do this. We're down to 2240 on the apoapsis. It's going down, but we're not being hugely aggressive about this. We're being quite cautious, actually. We've failed this so many times that I'm just like, you know what? We got to do this basically right at this point. So we're out of the atmosphere now. Let's get our solar panels extended so that we can get some additional charge coming in. Charge is, after all, important. And then we can warp around to here. Okay. So once again, we're going to warp in at about 100x. That'll drop down to 25x, and then down to no speed increase whatsoever. And then we can do that and go up to 10x. Perfect. So time for another aero brake pass. We can see we're in the atmosphere for a grand total of about 10-ish minutes, somewhere around there. So that's not too bad, and we're definitely shaving off a few kilometers. There goes one off of our apoapsis, but that has a long ways to go, right? No doubt about that. This is going to be quite a number of aero brake passes. But it feels like that's what's necessary at this point. So we're just going to be very, very cautious. We've used no heat shield yet. We're just working on pulling off of our apoapsis here. 2238 was where this started. So that was 6 kilometers removed with aero brake. That's 7. We're still in atmosphere as of right now. Although we've drifted off of velocity retrograde a bit. There we go. Let's just hold velocity retrograde. 2230, so that's 8 kilometers in total. We're out of the atmosphere now, so let's just get all of these guys extended. And let's warp right on around. Excellent. So we'll take another pass here. Dropping down to 25x. And then down to 1x. Cool. We'll get that all stowed. We had a bit of a kick when we entered the atmosphere this time. Interesting. We still want to be on velocity retrograde, so we can see the temperature really building up on that heat shield. That's expected, but this is giving the temperature time to be reduced, right? Because we're just dipping in and then dipping back out. So this went down by 1 kilometer thus far. And our overall periapsis has dropped a little bit as well, which is what we expect at this point. So this is all looking very good for right now. We're up to about 50C on that heat shield. And it's not really increasing too much more than that right now. It's now going back down because we are coming back out of the atmosphere. So yeah, it's about 10 kilometers per pass here. That is not much. I sure wish we had some additional fuel to adjust this. I would put our periapsis like 20 kilometers lower maybe. As it is, this is going to be a lot of passes. That's fine. Each pass will get a little bit more removed. So that looks good, because we're dipping down a little further each time. So at this point, we can bring this on around. Get these guys extended. There we go. And we can head on through for another pass. Wonderful. Down to 100. Down to 25. And we are in the atmosphere. So let's stow our solar panels. And off we go. Now, we could keep our solar panels extended. That would create a lot of drag. But it would also probably destroy the solar panels, which at this time, I'm not interested in having happen. So let's just bring this guy right on down. We're watching that apoapsis drop here. 893 is still the deepest depth, which remember, we started at 901, so that has definitely dropped a fair amount. We've dropped our periapsis by almost 10 kilometers. We've dropped our apoapsis by like 40 kilometers, so that's fine. We're on our way out on this pass, and we're just going to have to keep going. The good news is we can do these passes quite quickly. So that's great. But yeah, I wish that we had targeted a little bit lower, like 875 maybe. would have been a lot more effective. But that's just a matter of figuring out where you are too low for your heat shields, right? So let's go ahead and extend these solar panels yet again, and we're warping. Cool. So around we come here. We're down to 100x. And don't change the pitch, please. Lock velocity retrograde. There we go. And we don't want to have these guys extended well in atmosphere. Perfect. So we're down to 2214 on the periapsis at this juncture. That is noted. And we're watching that temperature on the heat shield. So the question is, are we going to start seeing higher temperatures? And each time we should see a slightly higher temperature. And also slightly higher drag force. Which the two are very closely related, right? So are we going to hit 55? 54.9. Very close. Okay. So we're on our way back up at this point on this aerobrake pass, of course, and we're up to 2208 on the apoapsis. So each time this is getting a little bit faster, and we're staying in the atmosphere slightly longer. So each time this is getting more and more efficient. But it's going to be a lot of passes. We ran out of fuel early on this one, and this is due to the increased weight of all of these heat shields. They're quite heavy, so that's not surprising. The heaviness of these heat shields is also meaning that we are having we're having a diminished effect on the drag, right? Because the amount of force generated by the drag here, you need more drag to slow down more weight. That just makes sense, right? That's the way that force equations work. F equals ma. So, yeah. This will be absolutely fine. Let's get these guys stowed and take another aerobrake pass. Cool. So we can see we're at 893 for the periapsis, and the question is that going to start dipping down soon? It should. It absolutely should. At least down to like 892, right? That would be ideal. But each and every one of these, we stay in the atmosphere just a little bit longer. We dip a little bit lower. We're going to hit at least 55 here. I'm interested in seeing what the peak temperature is here. Yeah. So see, 55.1. So it's 0.2 degrees per pass. At least as of right now. So that's great. That's really, really good. Because we're generating quite a lot of drag at this point. So that's all wonderful. And the ambient temperature is, of course, decreasing. And we're basically out of the atmosphere as of right now. Not entirely, but very, very close. I'm going to go ahead and extend out our solar panels yet again. Gotta keep that power charged up. And let's take another pass. Okay, so around we come for the next go-round. We're down below 2200 on the apoapsis, so that is a good sign. Ooh, that was quite a kick as we entered the atmosphere there. No doubt about that. Well, let's get these stowed, and let's go. The majority of our drag is coming from our heat shield, and that is absolutely expected. We do have multiple heat shields here, and we will jettison those as needed. So that seems absolutely wonderful for right now. In fact, we may just let them burn off. But I think jettisoning them is probably the way to go. So this is going to go to like 55.3 would be the expectation here. Yep, 55.3. Fantastic. So that's definitely getting a little bit higher each time. That temperature going up, the temperature and the drag force are basically directly correlated, right? So that's absolutely wonderful. We're down to 2291 on our apoapsis. This is going to be painfully slow, I'm afraid. It's going to take a while. That's okay, but it is going to be rough. So we're going to extend our solar panels out again, and let's go for another pass. So off we go here. We'll see what we get for a kick from our overlapping panels once we enter the atmosphere here. That was a pretty good kick there. No doubt about it. Let's get these stowed and get reoriented. Beautiful. So how are we doing on power right now? We're at 98%. I'm really not too concerned about power. So that seems phenomenal. I keep hoping that we're going to see this drop to 892. That would be nice. Let's see what we're actually at here. So we're currently at 894, 893.2.1. Okay, 893.1. So this is going to drop down to 892 very soon. Very, very soon indeed. That looks excellent. So we're at 2184 at this point. We've shaved off almost 100 kilometers off of that apoapsis. That's looking good. Not quite 100. We're getting there. And we can see that drag force definitely declining. Let's get our solar panels back out. And let's warp right on around for another pass. Phenomenal. So we're at 100x and 25x. There we go. We'll stow those, and let's do another one. So 2182, I think we're probably going to drop below... Well, I want to know how much we're changing per pass on the periapsis here. That's a pretty important number. So let's go ahead and keep an eye on that on this pass. We're about 3 minutes away from the periapsis. We know the previous was 893.1, although it was very close to 893.2. So let's see where this is going. I wish we had a little bit more numerical resolution here, but 893.5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So that was 893.1, but this time it was on the low end. So we're losing somewhere around, like, probably 70-ish. Probably about 70 meters per pass, I think. Something along those lines. On the periapsis side. Now, the periapsis side is where we lose the least amount, right? So that's absolutely phenomenal. We can see on the apoapsis side, yeah, we're losing somewhere around 10 kilometers per pass. That does mean that we've got a long ways to go, many, many passes to get this apoapsis circularized with the periapsis, but that's okay. It's not actually going to be as many as you think. It's not linear. So we're going to move this on up. And let's take another pass. I think that this time we're going to get down to 893.0. And we'll be at like 893.50 or something along those lines. We'll get these guys stowed, and let's see what this pass brings us. So yeah, we're spending about 10 minutes in the atmosphere here per pass, and that looks great. But the real question is, are we going to get down below 893 on the next pass? I'm not expecting that this pass. I'm expecting 893.0 this pass, and then 892.9 next pass. Okay, so there's 893.0, and we're going up. That's exactly what I expected. Okay, so that's great. That's really, really, really good. So that, of course, means that we are absolutely making significant progress here. That's about a drop of 70 meters per pass, and that means that we're staying much, much, much better. Now, we'll get a bit of a better idea on this here, and I'm going to wait until like 920 here, and then we can do this. Okay, there we go. And let's warp on around. We'll get a bit of a better idea here. I'm expecting 892.9 at this point. Now, this number is probably not going to change because I believe that's rounded in a kind of awkward way. But let's get these stowed, and let's take this around again. Beautiful. So again, I'm expecting 892.9. Let's see what happens here. So there's 900. And 895. 894, 893, 892.9. Yep, our estimate is pretty much bang on the money. I like it. So that looks good. We are going to be losing about 0.1 kilometers on the periapsis per pass, but some passes are not quite going to drop it by 0.1. It's going to be, like I said, I think we're dropping by about 60 to 70 meters per pass. Somewhere around there would be my guess. So that's wonderful. That's a really, really good sign. Let's go ahead and extend out these solar panels again, because it's time to take another pass. So around we go here. And this time I want to check in on heating as we approach the periapsis. So this number should be a fair amount higher. And let's get these stowed. There we go. And around we go. So this number here is not going to change until we get down to like 892.5. It's done using standard rounding, right? So that's a little bit unfortunate that this doesn't have a decimal, but whatever. I wish that it did. So we're at 897 at this point. Watching this temperature, we're expecting it to be definitely higher than it was. Like 57 degrees, maybe? That's just a guess. 56.2. Okay. Sure. So that seems reasonably good. The good news is we are able to do a lot of passes per episode. So we should have this done fairly quickly. We do need to drop a lot here still, and if I had additional fuel, I definitely would have put that periapsis at like 870, 875, somewhere around there. I kind of regret not doing that now, but alas. Hindsight is 20/20, right? But this is in an unstable orbit. It will eventually decay. It's just a matter of time. So let's get these extended back on out. And around we go for another pass. Okay, so we're heading in here. Let's get our solar panels stowed. And one more. Well, there's going to be a lot more, but we're going to get one more aerobrake pass done here. I'm just looking at the timer and I'm thinking, how many of these do I want to do off camera? Because I feel like there's going to be quite a lot of them that are going to need to happen off camera, or I don't know. I don't feel like this is particularly engaging content, but also it needs to happen. So there's that, right? So we're approaching the periapsis here. 82.9, 82.8. Nice. That's basically exactly where we expected to be. So every periapsis that drops a little bit, and that means we get a tiny bit more drag out of this. But keep in mind, this is kind of balanced out, because as we bring this in, each kilometer takes more and more delta V to actually drop the apoapsis. So that is definitely going to be balancing it out. But each time we lose a little bit more potential energy. That's the real takeaway here. So let's get these solar panels extended. I think we can do one more this episode. So let's do it. We're going to be entering the atmosphere shortly here. Okay, we're going to be dropping out of time warp now. Let's get these guys stowed and let's go. Beautiful. So 2141. At this point, in this entire episode, pretty much, we have managed to shed about 100 kilometers. So, that's not fantastic. I would definitely like to be a little deeper in that periapsis, but we just don't have the fuel. Heat shields are heavy. I was expecting 900 to be a little bit better than this, to be honest. I want to try something. So the drag force on these is about 3 newtons there, and then if we stow it, actually it's exactly the same drag whether these are extended or not. That's very interesting. Solar panels are the same drag whether they're extended or not. That makes sense then why these were causing so much drag when they were stowed, but they shouldn't be the same. They really, really shouldn't be. So now that we've made that discovery, that means that we don't really have a way to increase our drag. We're just going to have to go with it. That also means there's no reason to have them extended while in the atmosphere and risk their destruction. So let's just keep doing what we're doing. Okay. So this is going to go down to 892 soon enough. It's not quite going to be this pass, but it's going to be pretty close. And yeah, we can definitely see we're dropping somewhere around 10 kilometers here per pass. So that means that we have a lot of passes to go. No doubt about that. I think I probably will run at least some of them off camera here. We shall see how many. It'll be interesting, for sure. But yeah, this is definitely going to require a lot more passes than this. So if each of these is dropping this by roughly 10 kilometers, before we're fully captured by the atmosphere, we're going to need approximately like 140 more passes, I think. Something absurd like that. It's going to be a lot. At any rate, I'm going to put a cut in here, and next episode, I will probably have run at least some of those off camera. I make no guarantee if we need 140 that we can do all of them off camera. I probably will not have the time to do that. So we will see. We might have to run one more episode of aerobraking, and in between this episode and that one, I run a bunch off camera, and then after that one, I run a bunch off camera, and then the next episode after that could potentially be like the actual entry. We'll see. This is going to be a lot. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Andy McGard, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.